All right, babe. What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about competition. Um, Taking a look inwards to see how you do maybe compete with your partner or um basically just not like be a team.
Yes, that's a great topic. I know I bang on lots about teams, so this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
One, two, three, four.
You're listening to the Revive Couple Podcast. We're Michael and Laura, and together we'll explore everything relationships, personal responsibility, feminine and masculine dynamics, communication, and just some all around real and raw conversations.
Drawing from our 18 years together with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few f***s, and lots of love, we deep dive into the male and female perspectives on relationships and navigating the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
All right. Well, this is gonna be a good one. Like I said, I talk a lot about competition, and it all stemmed from Lennox, watching him these last few days because we've been playing. I mean, I talked to a lot of people about this, and actually some men I talked to about it in relationships and how it kind of throws a lot of things off and throws off polarity and throws off the way they think about things. But it reminded me with Lennox of watching him because we've been playing battleships quite a bit, right? These last few days, and watching him lose is not a good thing.
He goes through a few waves of emotions when he loses.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I mean, I've been
He's
trying to get it into him too. Like he's in jujitsu, right? So with that, there's a lot of winning, there's a lot of losing, and learning how to win and lose and how to take that all in stride. But which he does a lot better there than he does with battleships against us or with us.
Yeah, and we should just note that he's 5.5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that
We just assume everyone knows how old he is.
yeah, so he's a younger guy, but I mean, it's great because you see that it's not filtered, right? So you get to really see that raw like emotions, right, and where that comes from, and obviously being a little more aware of things myself, learning from you, and then you just even passing that on to him now. Like he gets to go through those emotions, and you see it. They're pretty short lived, but you see the whole gamut of what happens, right? And it doesn't just get stifled down. Like typically, that's where my first instinct would be. Like my programming is like, okay, like get mad, like that's enough. You don't talk like that or whatever. Quit crying. I'll give you something to cry about. Something like that, right? Which I've done in the past, right? But being aware now and you really opening my eyes to that and you giving him that space, it kind of shows. And like I say, it was just a great reminder of competition as one, and then being able to really bring that into relationships or bring that into awareness of relationships and how that affects people.
Yeah, and that's a great plug for breath work because and inner child work, which is things that I cover in my Reignited Relationships program. Not the breath work piece, sorry, but inner child work. Because letting him flow through those emotions is really important, like you said. I'm like not stern, but I'm like, well, you lost, buddy. Like this is a part of life, and I'll straight up tell him. But then like he can cry, and I just ask him, how does that feel? And I just wanted to touch on this, which is kind of a little bit off topic, but it's sort of what we do here. When you said, it's short lived and he moves through it, I wanted to say that that's a prime example of being able to process emotions. And the younger we can learn that. So if you're listening and you can do this with your kids, it's amazing. Or do it with yourself. Learn to do it with yourself as you reparent yourself, which is stuff that I do go through in my program, Reignited Relationships. But you allow yourself to close that loop. Right. And it's not a half felt emotion that then, like you said, you're told, I'll give you something to cry about or stop crying. You actually learn to feel your emotions all the way through and then come out the other side and be like, yeah, okay. So I'm assuming in his mind that it's like he gets over it, right? Because he got to feel those emotions. He moved them through his body. And then he moves on to the next thing, which kids are quite resilient. But I just think from an energetic field of now being an adult and working through my own stuck emotions, and also working with many women on breath work and coaching through their stuck emotions. I just think that that's a really great gift that you can give your children and give yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome to see once I'm aware of that and open to it and like see how it works. Because yeah, you nailed it, right? Like I don't want to beat that into the ground, but once you let that loop close, it's like it's done, right? Like it's gone and on to the next thing. It's not sitting there lingering, festering, whatever happens, right? Like I mean, I was a prime example with our relationship, right? In the past of, you know, going both of us, like I mean, doing our like my pattern or whatever I was going through, and then Monday, Tuesday, just kind of not talking or whatever that looked like, and then it would just go away, right? Or like leaving that loop, like you say,
Yeah, it doesn't go away.
No,
It's
no,
still
not
there.
go away. I say that, but yeah, it's just like that loop's half closed and then on to the next one, and left with all these half open loops that just fester, that turn into, it just blows up at certain points, right? And frustration and regret, or like, well, regret, resentment, all those different things. So it's pretty crazy to see, but it's awesome to see in him, and it's great that you have like giving him that gift to do that. And obviously this next baby coming, like I mean, lessons learned with Lennox, and I mean it's only going to get better and better for these kids, right? So they don't have to deal with all the shit. They can, you know, break all those patterns, and they can do that with their own kids and partners, and it'll just make it that much easier with their wives and husbands or whatever that looks like, right? So that's really exciting. But at the same time, like I said, it reminded me of relationships, because talk to a lot of men about competition, and it's weird. Well, not weird, but I can see it because that's the times we're in, right? Like competition for money, competition for even like paying bills, competition for, I know on the men's side, like competition for doing stuff around the house, even like, hey, I washed the dishes. Like what now, right? Or like, do I get something? Or like there's like rewards or something, like people want rewards for doing things, or compete against each other for doing things, or even partners. And like I've talked to guys about like sports even, right? Like their wives are doing things like, I mean, even you for damn sake, like going freaking golfing, you got a hole in one, man.
Did you just say for damn sake?
I've been really trying to not swear lately. It's a whole thing I've been going through. Geez, gosh, I don't even know what to say now. What is going on?
Let's go back to, yeah, I did get a hole in one.
Yeah, that is, so there you go, like that. And then like gun range, I mean, you're awesome shot with handguns. Like, I mean, it's just all these things, right? That's not compete. Like, I'm proud of you for that. That's awesome. And I don't see that as competition. But I mean, there's all these different, like, those are really good examples of things that could like turn into stuff. If, especially for a man, I don't know from the women's point of view, but for a guy, like if your ego is hit a little bit, or if you're not like, you're not okay with yourself, that stuff like kills you. That eats away at you. Like, I can't even beat her at stuff I'm supposed to beat her at. Now what? Like, well, I'm useless. So, I mean, you're not just, that affects so many things, right? Then that affects your, or a sex, it affects your sex, right?
Like what you thinking?
Yeah, it affects your performance in bed, even because you're in your own head and you're like, well, now I'm not even like hard enough, or like I'm not, all these different things, right? Like it just completely plays with your psyche if you're not okay. So that is a big one in relationships that I've seen, I've heard. Like I say, I haven't really felt it, and I don't know if I'm lying to myself or not, but I really haven't. I've been pretty good with a lot of things. I'm sure there has been moments of it. I just can't give an example right now, but yeah, like I say, it's pretty crazy, and it really affects a lot of things, like at those levels. And like I say, intimacy, even just opening up and being vulnerable with your partner, right? Because I'm sure most people like probably think that just going to use that against me now in some other form of competition, and I'm going to be even less than this person, right? So I always preach about team. I'm big team, like love team. And that's what I loved about everything. I love that about sports even, right? Like I was never really that good at sports, but I was able to make hockey teams being the goalie. And I always say that, like, I didn't like being a goalie. I didn't like, I'm sure there's probably parts of it I liked or whatever, but I really didn't like being a goalie, but that was the only way I could make the team. I was just too small, whatever, right? Fat, couldn't skate fast enough, all these things. But that was allowed me to be part of a lot of cool teams and be part of teams. And I was always that like locker room guy. Like I love just being in there, like bullshitting. Oh God, there goes my swearing. No, but doing
You should have said, oh gosh.
yeah. Oh,
You've really fucked it up now.
no, I'm all fucked up. But like, I mean, just joking with guys, telling stories, just being just that's what I like about that's what I liked about hockey. Rodeo, same, like that was rodeo is a little bit different because that is kind of part of like you're part of almost a traveling circus of just like a family in the back, right? And everything just about like stories and sitting around and having a good time, and racing was kind of like a byproduct of that in my mind anyway. It was more of like the community and stuff. So with a lot of stuff is that's what I like. So again, that's team in that aspect, but team in the relationship too is I don't want to compete with you. Like I want to build more with you, right? And I always say that there's enough on the outside, like coming at us with work, with people, with politics, with freaking everything, right? So why you would bring that into your house and compete in your own house with people? I mean, I know guys like people compete with their kids for fuck's sakes. Like, what are you doing? But at the same time, it's like, I get it. If you're not okay with yourself, then 100% you're going to freaking try to get some validation by beating your wife at something or beating your kid at something, which is messed up when you say it out loud, but in your mind, in your head, you can justify it, I think.
Yeah. I think you just brought up like, I should have had a little notepad because I'm like, ooh, we need to touch on this and we need to touch on this and we need to touch on this. But what really comes forward for me is, okay, two things. Hopefully I remember these two things. I'm going to say 50-50 and masculinity so that you can help me remember if I forget. One being that, well, we'll start with 50-50. You made me think a lot about like the David Dita 50-50 relationship thing, right? And we do go deeper into that within Safe and Wild, but that's where a lot of relationships are at, and that decreases polarity. We talk a lot about passion and intimacy and like attraction and desire because that's what so many people want and they don't know how to get it. But it comes down to the feminine and the masculine energies, understanding the feminine and the masculine energies. And I'll always bring it back to these because it just makes so much sense. But David Dita talks about in his book, Intimate Communion, I believe that one, right? Where that's where a lot of couples are at these days. 50-50 everything. So it's like splitting the bills, splitting the house, tasks, cleaning.
Yeah.
Essentially just like being roommates, right? Like it's like, hey, let's live together. We'll split the cost. We'll have some kids. But there's no like passion and real deep intimacy there. And there's probably not even really that passion and intimacy within a self as well. I would actually go out on a limb to say that there isn't, because I know from personal experience that obviously if you're feeling, whether you're masculine or feminine, feeling really like lit up and passionate, that you are going to really be in one of your core essences, whether that's core feminine or more core masculine. And you're going to have polarity naturally. It will create polarity within your relationship. So where I'm going with this is like, I feel like that competition piece kind of comes with that in today's society of like, you know, we're both making money, or like one's not really the breadwinner, or maybe the woman is the breadwinner, and then that's deflating the man, right? You kind of touched on that. But basically bringing it back to like, if everything is a competition within your relationship, and this could be totally unconscious, right? Like you talked about competition of like getting upset or like annoyed if she's winning or whatever, or better at you than something. But even unconsciously, it's a competition of separating household tasks, right? Like, well, I did the dishes, or I made supper. It's your turn to do the dishes. And again, that's kind of a competition, right? Because it's like, I do more around here. And what is that doing for your polarity and for your passion and your intimacy, right? So losing this whole like 50-50 analogy of competition and sinking into deeper like feminine and masculine and discovering what roles you're good at. And this isn't like sexist to say like, oh, I have to do the dishes and vacuum while you get to watch TV. But maybe that's what it is for us too, because it's all going to be very unique to every individual, right? So just understanding this feminine and the masculine aspect, I think, takes away that competition, because it's like, this is what I'm really good at as a feminine woman. this is what you're really good at as a masculine man around our home, in our life that we're building together, and as parents, as our careers. And then not only are we now not competing, but we're also building polarity, building passion, building intimacy, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I talk to guys about that with the whole task thing of, like you said, if you're making supper, washing dishes, vacuuming, getting kids to bed and whatever, right? But it's like, well, I worked all day. That's her job or something like that, right? It's like, you dummy, like, use your head. If you think about it logically, like, go backwards on that. And like, you sitting on the couch, I'm reverting this to sex, but like you sitting on the couch, she's doing the dishes, vacuuming, cooking, putting shit away, all that stuff. She looks at you and is like, I don't want to have sex with you. I don't want to be intimate with you. I don't want to build you up at all. Like, I'm not going to put you on a pedestal as you sit there scratching your gut watching TV, right? Whereas like, if she cooked or you cooked or dishes, or fucking cook and do dishes, I don't care. Like, do all that.
Doesn't make you any less masculine.
No, put that kid to bed too. Like, whatever. That just gives you more time to have sex, or that gives you more time to be intimate. That gives you more time to go necking, as the kids say nowadays. But I mean, it makes more sense. Like, if you, like, I don't know why people don't think about it that way, or like guys don't think about it that way. Most men, it's like, well, that's her job. She didn't do anything all day. Say that in like quotes for sure. Cause like, well, what did you do? It's like, don't worry about that. She did a lot. You don't want to know. You don't have to know. It doesn't compute. Right. So yeah, you're out all day working as the man, doing whatever you do, but come home, fucking put in some effort, and that effort will come back to you. Mm-hmm. And then if it doesn't come back to you that day, maybe something's off, maybe whatever, you might have to listen. You might have to, communicate a little bit, but don't just go in there bitching about like, I did the dishes, I put the kid to sleep, I worked all day, I did all this for you, I want a blowjob. It doesn't work that way, right? Like, it just doesn't. I mean, there's no way around it. And then like trying to keep score with that too.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think that's where I was going with the competition piece with the 50-50, because then there is this scorekeeping. That's exactly it. That's a great way to sum it up in the scorekeeping, because then there's competition and it's not about competition. Also, I would add though that you're the man, so you're thinking about sex. And I'm not saying that women don't think about sex, but typically, we've talked about this lots before, women connect through emotions, men connect through physical. So yes, you're thinking physical, sex, blowjobs, whatever.
How can we make more time for this?
But don't forget that she's thinking, do you know what? Actually, you know what? Most women tell me when it comes to their lack of intimacy in their relationship is because, one, they're like, I feel like I'm his mother. I don't want to, have sex with my kid, is essentially like the way it's kind of put, right? Like, would you want to have sex with your mother or your kid, whatever? Because it's like they feel like they're doing so much. And you were just saying like if she's at home with the kids and he's at work, but most partners both work now, right? So again, there's that 50-50, both out of the house and then come home. And I mean, if she's expected to do everything, then that's pretty lame because she can't then have no time for herself. Then that's the last thing that's on her mind. So that's the two things that women tell me is like, one, I feel like I'm his mom and I don't want to have sex with him. And two, it's actually the furthest thing from my mind because I'm like going through a checklist all evening of all of the things that I have to do in order to get everyone to bed and then get myself to bed to get up in the morning and redo the whole thing all over again. So when women learn to be able to communicate that properly and men can receive that properly and open up conversations for honest, authentic conversations to be had within the relationship, then you get to this point where you just shared that kind of stuff, like help out around the house or help out with certain things. Or here's a good one, ask, what could I do tonight that would make your life easier so that you could have a few moments to rest before bed? And I mean, I personally wouldn't do that with the expectation that that means I'm going to get laid. but authentically and lovingly, like giving her that space and that time. And it might not happen that night or the next night, but the fact that you're showing that you care and you want to help and you respect and appreciate and cherish her and you want her to have this time to herself, it's going to pay off as her nervous system can, decompress and she has some time to herself. But also know that another aspect of that too is just she might want to connect intimately. For her is having an in-depth conversation. So you have to open up and give that to her too, right? And then maybe that leads to a more physical connection that evening. But I just wanted to say, and this might be like a bit of a tangent from what you're saying, but from a woman's point of view, and a lot of the women that I work with and talk to, the lack of intimacy comes from the fact that they're like way too in their heads because they just have too much to do. And so when you're in your head as a woman, you are far removed from the sensations in your body, the pleasure, the sensuality, and you don't care.
No,
There's other shit to get done.
That's exactly it. I mean, you nailed it, right? And most people don't, I think, I don't know. I shouldn't even say that. I was like, you should know innately, like most men should know innately, but they don't, or else it would be a lot different. But I mean, it makes so much sense. Like it's common sense to do that. But at the same time, I know I know myself personally, right? Like if you don't know that, or you haven't learned that from something or somewhere or someone, or listening to a great podcast or doing courses, whatever that looks like, if you don't know that, then I mean, I guess you're not going to do it, right? Because you're not seeing that. Maybe you weren't modeled that as a kid. You didn't see your parents, or like I say, now most houses are like single moms or having to deal with like multiple boyfriends at different times and like just different guys and whatever that looks like in the house or whatever, right? Like you just seen some messed up stuff when you're a kid. And then as an adult, you don't see any of that on like TV. I guess if you watch shows or movies, like it's not really there, right? The only thing in movies is like this romantic idea of whatever. They just it's jump cuts, right? Like they don't show the shit in between of anything, right? So, I mean, you miss out on that. So, I mean, no one really learns this stuff. Like most people aren't going out to actively learn this stuff, right? Like you're not, why, right? They're like, there's other things to do. But at the same time, this is the stuff that matters. And this is the stuff that'll make your life so much easier, makes everything else easier. Because if you not competing at home, if have a good team at home, it makes work way easier. It makes life way easier. Your kids get a better life out of that. It makes those activities outside of the house way better. Like if you go camping, if you go whatever, right? Like go to play to the park, go to the farmer's market or anything. It makes it easy. Like there's no bickering. There's no nothing. It's just like you get to be in that moment, enjoy that moment and take it all in, right? I'm big on easy. I want to make life easy, right? And that's what makes life easy. There's a bit of work, yeah. But I mean, the work into it is the reward is so much more. Like, I mean, that's the best work you can put into anything.
Well, I guess, life is hard, right? We could use that kind of phrase. And we've talked about before, like you have to do hard shit in life. But if you can make other areas of your life flow with ease, make them easier, then why not, right? And that's for sure what we talk about. Like that's why being a team makes things a lot easier. This is not making sense. I want to come back to something though, what I was talking about, the masculine part. So adding on to that is that one of the masculine traits is competition. And it's really healthy for men to have competition, but not within the relationship.
No, well, with other men, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that, where was I going to go with that though? I kind of lost my train of thought because it had to do with men, your masculinity and competition. But yes, not bringing that into your relationship with your partner, but having that healthy competition in other areas of your life. So the importance of having like other men in your life, right? And I had a better point to go with that, but I've lost it because we kind of took this in a a ton of different directions,
It
which
is.
I think is all very applicable.
Yeah, it jumped a little bit, but at the same time, I know what you're saying with that, and it really is like we need to compete with other men and do things with other men, right? And like I always go back to like we lost those hunting packs, we lost those elder groups. We don't spend a lot of time with elders, or if we do, we're not asking the questions. Or men's groups, we're not really opening up. It's sitting around a bar, like sitting around drinking, watching sports, and then there's so much more on the back end of that too. It was like you're watching all these other men compete against each other, living out their dreams, and you're sitting there watching them, right? Like, and you're just living on the sidelines. So there's so much more to that. But absolutely, like we're missing so much from men, and we're really not taking in from older generations, from our elders, from any of that, the things that we should be. And now we're suffering from that. Like most men aren't in their masculine, right? So there's so much loss in that. Like you said, we're kind of jumping all over, but that's a big one.
It's all still so tied together and
It
intermeshed.
is, because if you're not strong in your masculine, then absolutely you're going to compete with your wife to try to win something, right? To try to feel like a man. I'm going to feel like a man. I'm going to put this person down. I'm going to feel stronger than her, which is great. Awesome, buddy. You're good on you, right? You can beat up your wife. It's like you're awesome job.
Or beat your wife, yeah.
Yeah.
Like not beat, but like
Anything,
compete.
right?
Yeah.
You could make physically you're more powerful,
Emotionally, mentally, yeah.
all that stuff, right? And it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't help anything, I guess, would be the best way to put it. I mean, like I say, you can talk on and on about this, but it's a really bad look, and it all goes back to polarity of you being like, most men need to be in their masculine and letting your wife be in her feminine, and like letting her be in it, but at the same time like incubating that, or like growing that, and let it blossom into what it needs to be. Because once she's in her feminine, or once you're really in your feminine, like I keep saying, like it just makes life easier. And there's work behind it, but at the same time, it makes life so much easier, and everybody gets to reap the benefits of it. So I mean, it's like I say, it can kind of beat a dead horse on it, but it just goes on. And I mean, like I say, we can talk about it for days.
Yeah, and thank you, because that's where I was initially going to go with it, but then, like I said, it went in a ton of different directions. That, yeah, just personal responsibility, right? To be in your healthy, empowered masculine, not toxic masculinity, right? So healthy masculine, and your competition can be in other areas of your life, so that you don't bring that home, and you can come home and be in your masculine and encourage her, like you just said, to be in her feminine. And, you know, logically, it might make more sense that, you know, you'll get further if you're kind of 50-50 and you go halfers on stuff and you compete on things and you keep the score. But energetically, it just doesn't make sense. You get way further ahead with this polarity aspect and sinking into each of your own power, and knowing each of your own power. You'll be happier. You'll get more shit done. Life will be more like flow with ease. Family life, your partnership, your parenting, everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, that's the thing with men. I talk about it all the time. Is you got to chase your dreams. You got to chase your mission. You got to chase your focus, and stay in that focus and fight those fights. Be in that competition.
Yes.
And,
thank you. Okay.
And then your feminine, your wife, like they'll come with you. Bring her, like invite her in, but don't make her your world. And you are gonna everything. Just you reap the benefits of all of that.
Yes, and that is attractive. But we won't talk about that, like go deeper into that today, because that could be a whole other podcast about like not making your woman your whole world, right? Oh my God, there's just like so much we could talk about, but
oh my gosh, we can just do so many episodes
goodness.
on this. Anyway, but yeah, we better leave it at that. But no, this is awesome. And again, just competition, right? Just get away from it and compete with the right people. Don't compete with the people in your house, and life will just be better. But I know, like I say, we've been talking a lot about this, and it really goes with a lot of the courses that we have out. What's the best one right now to get into, like to get your foot in the door with the Revive couple? What would you do?
Well, we just created our free communication mini course called Say What You Need to Say. And that's exactly what we created it for, because This stuff is all quite complex. Like I always say, we didn't just learn this overnight. Like this has been years of studying and implementing and putting into practice, which is implementing. I have baby brain now. So that course we created because one of the biggest things that we see is couples speaking different languages, but expecting their partner to respond or react the way that they would, but we don't speak the same language. And so that's where I would start is going to the revivedcouple.com. There is Say What You Need to Say free mini course. It's only 13 minutes long. So we go deep into some slides and different information about how to communicate and how to communicate with the opposite sex. And we touch on feminine and masculine energy because that's important for understanding. And so that's where I would start.
Okay. No, that's perfect. I mean, we'll have all the links in the show notes, and just connect with us on social, anywhere like that, and get that in your hands. Just sign up for the free mini course and we'll go from there.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. I love you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Check out our offerings on social media at The Revived Couple and online at therevivedcouple.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@larocklife.com or DM at The Revived Couple.
And don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review.